Hi everyone, and welcome to today's show. This is the second episode of the series Finding Happiness in the Mind of Christ. In today's episode, I want to share with you the underlying problems of our collective mental health challenges. Have you ever wondered why this mental health issue that we all face has no boundary? It affects an African, a Caucasian, an Asian. It affects everybody. It doesn't have boundary with religion, your faith, or whatever. Have you ever wondered why? We are all in our various bubbles, in our various spaces. Our stories might be different, but the experiences are almost the same. So why is it that we all experience the same thing? Why is it that we all feel that pain? Why? I've often wondered. And I'm happy to say that I don't know if you are interested in the answer, but I found the reason why. And that will be one of the reasons, part of the thing we are going to be discussing in today's show. Because we need this understanding, we need this knowledge to be able to equip ourselves to understand our mind. Because if we do not know our mind, it's just like a blind man. Imagine a blind man. This is not to insult anybody who is blind. I'm just using as an example to say, imagine a blind man it's like walking in the dark, trying to fix something, or to fix a problem, or to fight someone. You are fighting, you are struggling to fight, but you don't even know if the person you are fighting is here, is there, or there. So you're just fighting. It's like trying and error, trying to see what is going to work and what is not going to work. That's how I can describe how we are trying to fix mental health issues. So in this video, I want to try to bring a spiritual understanding of this collective pain, collective struggles that we are all experiencing. I want to share with you the root problems of our collective mental health challenges, which lie this problem, the reason why we all from different races, from different races, different ages, different status in life. The reason why we face all this same thing is because the seed of mental health, the seed of suffering, the seed of anxiety, depression, lies in the womb of the soul. It lies in the womb of the soul, which is where our core beliefs are conceived about ourselves, about the world we live in, about our individual world. Because even though we live in a global world, we each have created a world for ourselves. And that world we have created for ourselves is what we have believed ourselves to be. And so those things that we have believed, those assumptions, those beliefs that we have believed ourselves to be, has been planted in the womb of your soul, which is where beliefs are conceived, which is where beliefs are constructed about you as a person, the nation, the city, the tribe, the culture of whatever you have believed it to be. That is where that is where those constructs were made. And your soul is the one who brought that, everything you have created, every belief. The soul is the one who brings it into expression, who makes it visible. That's the power in you. If you've watched my previous video, I did mention that there is a self in you, and that self is God. And that self dwells in you. But yet, you are going through so much darkness. You're going through so much struggle, so much suffering, when you have that ability to do wonders. Why are you unable to find that invisible self? Okay. This is the Mind of Christ talk show. For those of you who are new to this channel, the Mind of Christ talk show is a show dedicated to providing you with spiritual knowledge and tools to navigate troubling times. Whether you are experiencing anxiety, dealing with a lot of uncertainties, or you are struggling with mental health, you might even be in search of inner peace. Or maybe you just want to learn about your spiritual nature, about that invisible self of yours. We provide you with tips and tricks and tools on how to navigate those difficult times and happy times as well. We provide kingdom perspective for you to use to navigate the various seasons in your life. So if you love those kind of things, then I invite you to visit us, and you'll be able to find answers to some of your problems. But before I take you on this journey, I want to highlight the circumstances or condition man is living, despite the fact that man was created in the nature of God. You know, this is a spiritual show. I don't like using the name spiritual, but this is a show of God. If you've watched my previous channel, you understand what I mean. This is a show where we use God's perspective to navigate difficult and challenging times. So on that basis, you should know that you were created in the image and in the likeness of God. So because you were created in the image and likeness of God, you have the light of God fully, constantly now inside of you. But you, and when I talk about man, I'm not referring to a male man. No, when God, I'm just following the Bible says that let us make man in our image and in our likeness. That's the man I'm referring to. And that man is not a physical male. It is man, whether male or female. The Bible calls it as male. So that is that man I'm talking about. So I'm not referring to a male or a female. So I hope you get the point. So this man was created in God's image, in God's likeness, in God's exact nature, as the one and only being, as the one and only self. This one and only God, this being is a God being. And this self is a self which consists of all the power of God, the wisdom of God, the knowledge of God, the nature of God. Everything has been vested in this man. So this man that I'm talking about is the man God created. And this man, when God created man, God created your mind, the mind that is giving us all the trouble, all the wahala. That is the mind God created. So we'll look at the mind. We'll go and search the mind in the brain. The mind is not in the brain. The mind is the man God created in the beginning. This is a simple explanation of how your soul, which is God, ended up feeling overwhelmed by worries because she is being controlled by her five senses. God created this man in his image and in his likeness, gave this man all the power. Your soul, every one of us have a soul. Have you ever seen your soul? I guess the answer is no. Why? Because your soul is invisible. That soul is God. It's a part of God. But this soul, this God in you, how come God created you spirit? And now this soul is claiming that she is a human being. And as a result of that identification, identifying herself as a human being, she has ended up feeling overwhelmed by worries because she is now controlled by her 5 senses. She's now controlled by her sense of sight, taste, what she sees, what she hears, and stuff like that. It's really important for you to understand these dynamics, to understand these details, because this knowledge is effective because it's going to give you a glimpse of what is going on in your mind. Because what the soul is going through, remember I said that when God created that man, God actually created your mind. So what is going on in your mind? It's actually happening to your soul. So it is your soul who is going through all this pain. So your experiences of depression, of anxiety, of fear, it is your soul who is experiencing those things. And that is what is going on in your mind. Most people are currently living in depleted emotional conditions. A lot of people are feeling, a lot of people are living in conditions of fear. They are going through extreme fear. They are going through extreme feeling stressful for so many things that is happening to them. But the one who is feeling stressful is the soul. Many souls are living in fear. They are living an anxious life. They are not even aware of their innate God self. They are not aware. When I mean God self is a word I coined. You know, we talk about the self, and whenever you talk about myself, you refer to this personality that the soul created in her sleep, in her dream. And so we always refer, when we talk about self, we always refer to that personality. The one you believe yourself to be. When you look in the mirror, you see yourself, you say, oh, that's who I am. And that you are, even though you are saying that's who you are, you are assuming you are saying about the appearance. But what you do not know is that your name, your title, your race, your origin, your date of birth, all those things are things that are hidden underneath your body. I don't want to confuse you, so I will not go. I'll wait when I explain the body, then I can go into those details. So the reason I had to coin this word, your God self, to grab your attention. I hope I have succeeded in grabbing your attention. So most people are not aware of their innate essence, their God self. That self in you, your true self. This self is invisible. This self is a self that you cannot see, feel, or touch. And this self is so powerful, is complete, and is perfect. All the power of God, all the knowledge of God, all the wisdom of God is all vested on this self. And this self is in your heart, is in you. Yet, most people are not aware. Let me know in the comment below. Are you aware of this self, your God self? You might have a different name. You might have a name you call this self. Are you aware of this self? Are you aware of the power you possess? And how have you used this self to have a better life for yourself? Please let me know in the comments below. I would like to know your own understanding or your own take on this self. Now that we understand the power of yourself, the power of the self that is in you. So to get started, you have to know that your soul is God. Did you know that your soul is God? Of course, I'm sure you do. Let me know in the comment below. Your soul, you have to know that your soul is God and that you are a spirit being. I know before I used to just know that I'm a spirit being, but I didn't really understand the relationship, the connectedness, or what it really means when I say that we are spirit being. You know, they say we are all connected. I didn't understand that connection. We are all connected in some way. I'm sure everybody knows that. But for me personally, I didn't know how we were connected, but now I know. So your soul is God, and you are a spirit being. This being is what I call the God self, like I explained before. This self in you, this self, not this self in you, this self is who you are. And this self is indestructible. This self is God Himself. This self is invisible. And because it's invisible, this self, you know when you have a tree, you plant mango, there can be one mango here, there another mango here, you know. But because you are a spirit being, there's no way anxiety can hang on you. It's not possible. There's no way depression, there's no way sickness. None of those things can be on you. It's not possible. Why? Because you are God. Because you are a spirit being. Because you are indestructible. I really want you to understand this self. Because if you understand this self, you will not live anymore in fear. You will not live your life feeling sorry for yourself, being lonely, being sad and depressed. I also want you to know that this self is the warehouse of peace. If you're ever looking for peace, this is where you get peace, from this self. If you ever wanted to be joyful, this is where you get joy. This is where you get completeness, wholeness, fulfillment. This is where you live your purpose. This is where you find your purpose. It is only in this self. You cannot find your purpose in being a human being. Because they are all shadows. This self is happiness. Happiness is your birthright. Happiness is your nature. You don't have to do anything to be happy. You don't have to be anything. You cannot give what you do not have. You are already happiness. You are already peace. You are already joy. You are already health, perfect wealth, health, harmony, laughter. You are already these things. But I'm sure you are wondering, when you look at your circumstances, you look at your situation, you look at the darkness you are, you think that this lady, is she crazy? Is she making fun of me? No, I am not. I'm telling you the truth. I also understand that even though we have this self in us, but this nature of you lies dormant. It lies dormant. You are not able to access it. You are not able to connect to this self that will give you happiness, peace, joy, and everything. When you find out for yourself that happiness is not just a means, happiness is your birthright. So, but this nature of you lies dormant. Why? Why can't you access it? The reason you cannot access it is because your soul fell asleep. And in her sleep, she identified herself. And in her sleep, instead, she identified herself with a false claim. The soul identified herself with a false claim. She identified herself with a false belief. Before this time, the soul is God. The soul has always been God. The soul has no beginning. The soul has no end. The soul has no system of belief. The soul was just God in that process. But when she fell asleep, she identified herself as something else. She introduced a false claim. She introduced belief. She assumed herself to be your personality. The soul got married to this personality. And they created a new mindset. Your mind is like a house where everything in that house is like content. You have your chair, you have your bed, you have everything fixed. That's how our mind is. So the soul now created a new house, a new consciousness, a new world of imagination. All this is happening in her sleep. A new personality, also known as the ego, is either this personality the soul created, is also known as the ego. It's also known as the devil. You see, the people in the church, they'll bind and cast the devil. They do not realize that that devil is that man who has taken the place of God in the name of a human being. And so the soul, because she has the womb, the will, and the emotion, she has the ability to bring forth, to make things come into manifestation, to bring things come into existence, into expression. So because she has that womb, so she took that idea that I am this personality. This is a name. The personality will have. This personality was born this day. So, and this personality gave everything and said, okay, this is the consciousness. And this is how your personality came about. So when I was saying that there's no way you are able to fix your personality, you're able to, in my previous video, to use those tools to help you with your problem, that you need a spiritual solution, is because this personality is an imagination. It's an idea, it's a thought the soul took in while she was asleep. It is not even a thing, it doesn't even exist. But in the sleep, the soul has believed, your soul has believed that this is what she is. And of course, all these things are going on. The soul is hurting, the soul is going through all these things. This is what now the mind, this is not the mind God created, because the soul has now created a new consciousness and calls it a human mind. And all the struggles, all your hurting, all the hurting of the soul, the struggles, the challenges, the negative thoughts, everything that is going on there is now, because the soul has a womb again, she's able to express those things. And those expression of your feelings, your emotions, and those thoughts are expressed through your body. Mind you, your body is like a container. The Bible says that, don't you know that your body is the temple of the living God, and God Most High dwells on your body. So whatever content is in that body, whatever is going on internally, inwardly, is what is being expressed on this body. Because this body has no life on its own. This body has no mind. This body cannot do anything. The only thing that makes this body move, my fingers are able to move, I can move my head, it is the life of God inside of me. So, the soul now going through all this stress, those things are now expressed. That's why you see some people are sad, some people get so depressed, they get to the point where it develops into sicknesses and stuff. Why? Because all that is going on within is now being mirrored through your body as your false sense of self, your concept of who you are, and the concept of God. That's why I was saying that this show is it has nothing to do with religion, it has nothing to do with Christian teaching. Because if you are a Christian and you believe that you are a human being, then you have not seen God. You have not known God the way God wants you to know God. God is spirit. You were created in His image and in His likeness. So it means that you are spirit as well. You cannot be a human being and be a spirit. There's no way. It's either you are God. Even if you do not believe that you are God, you are a spirit being. You are. And that's how you are connected to God. And so they gave birth to a false concept of a self. That self is that personality. And that is a self that is presented before you, and you say you are going through this, you're going through A, you are going through B. But that's not the one, because this self is just a thought, it's just an imagination. It doesn't exist. And it is in this same mindset, in this same consciousness, that we have been introduced to God. And God has so many different definitions, so many different people have their own understanding of who God is. So my own understanding is not coming from the part of the soul, because my soul has woken up. Now I see God for who God is. And I know that I don't have to die and go to heaven before I know God. I see God on the bed because I am that spirit of God. That is who I am. But when I'm saying, somebody should not say this is blasphemy. No, I'm not saying this personality. I'm not talking about Jenny, because Jenny is no more in this. That's how the world identify me. But in my core, inside of me, I know who I am. And that's where I'm living my life from. And that's what I'm introducing to you. That the only way you can survive and live life in this, and succeed and live to your highest potential, is to self-identify yourself with that self with a capital letter. That is who you are. That is the self God sees you. When God looks at you, that is the self he sees. He doesn't see the personality, because he never created the personality. He sees you. And so when God was teaching me these things, he now spoke to me about the soul. He said the soul is wandering, crying in pain, searching for answers, for help, not knowing the power that is in her, not knowing who she is. And God told me that when I wake up from my sleep, when my soul wakes up, I'll realize that the one I have believed myself to be is not who I am. And I should identify myself with the self he's telling me about and live from that consciousness. And so that's what I did. And today I found peace. I now know that happiness is my birthright. And so, to every cause, there is an effect. The soul took a personality and put it in the place of the spirit as God, a personality who doesn't have a life. And because she has the womb, she took seed and thought ideas from this personality, because from the imagination, and planted in her womb. The consequences of her action translated into the mind we are all living, what is now known as the human being. Because the soul now in that union with the ego, with the devil, with the personality, she gave birth to an ideology, an idea known as human being. So you have to understand that step one, the soul slept. In her sleep, because she has the womb, she has the ability to conceive an idea and it comes to pass. She gave birth to a personality, and he put the name of that personality is what is now known as human being. The soul used this imagination of a personality and look around and saw your body and saw this form and assumed that this form is this personality. That's why we can now say they have 7.5 billion people. For every person who is born, you have a personality, and that is matched to your body. But realize that once you wake up, you realize, your soul wakes up and realize that, oh, this is not who I am, and find who she is. Then she will get to understand that this body is a vessel of expression, expressing what is inside. What is inside, everything that's going on inside is what is expressed in this body. So the consequences of the actions, of this action of the soul in her sleep, translated into a thought-taking, programming mind, where the soul has been brainwashed. Brainwashing a kind of brainwashing that introduced a new concept, now known as belief. before this time, the soul, when the soul was awake, it's just God. There was no belief. There was no belief. There was no opinions. There was no logic. There was no reasoning. It was just the soul, the spirit and the soul as God one. But now, while the soul slept, in her sleep, she came up with a new concept known as beliefs. We have beliefs and we have opinions. These beliefs, one of the beliefs is when, for example, you believe that this personality is who you are. That belief is now planted in the womb of your soul, because your soul now, it appears as if she's disconnected from her spiritual nature, from the self with a capital letter, the self that has happiness, joy, and peace. Because of that sleep, she is disconnected. She cannot access that self again. So she's now living in this new consciousness, this new world, this house that she has built for herself. And then she now introduced the concept of belief. This is where belief was first introduced, to make her believe that she is this personality. She is this one. This personality with a name, with an identity, with a date of birth, and all the things, whatever this personality identifies. So that is the first concept of belief, planted in the womb of the soul. And everything that is planted in the womb of the soul, and it's believed to be true, the soul, it must come into expression. It must come into manifestation. So your soul now gets a personality, believe that this is who you are, put it in the womb of the soul, and that is what you have believed yourself to be. A new consciousness was introduced to the soul in her sleep. This consciousness is like, as I'm talking, sharing the journey of the soul, it's indirectly sharing you how your mind is programmed. We call it the human mind. There's no such thing like a human mind. There's only one mind, and that mind is God. So everything going on in what is called the human mind is happening in a sleep. It's a dream. When your soul wakes up, it's not even a thing. So a new consciousness was introduced to the soul in her sleep. This consciousness was set up to accept false sets of belief. Every belief you have is planted in your womb. And this belief is what becomes your core beliefs. This is what you have believed yourself to be. And these beliefs are what must come to pass. These things happen because your soul naturally, by the way it was programmed, everything that is planted in the womb of the soul, and you believe it to be true, must come into expression. That is a law of consciousness. A law of consciousness. What do I mean by consciousness? When I talk about consciousness, I'm referring to God. So as a result of that, our multiple beliefs and opinions of ourselves, of our God, of our will, and all these things are all planted in the womb of the soul. And in that way, we are all conditioned to believe that we are human beings. And because we have believed that we are human beings, we see the problems based on human nature is controlled by sight, hearing, feeling, and stuff. This is how we have been constructed. And this is how we perceive life. This is how we make our decision. This is how we do so many things. But that doesn't change the fact that you are spirit, you are God originally. So that power to be able to conceive is not even in you. The only reason why your depression, your anxiety, your suffering can never be true, because there is only one who is the conceiver and the perceiver of ideas. That is how the law of consciousness operates. It is only God who can conceive ideas, and God who can perceive and see and interpret and judge ideas. So the soul being the female part of this union between the spirit and the soul, the spirit being the man, the soul being the woman, taking the place of the spirit and putting the personality, and the soul having a womb. So the personality now gives idea to the soul. The soul now the soul conceives that idea. But all those ideas are not true. It's not real. Why? Because the soul does not have the power the ability in her, the nature in her to produce, to conceive ideas. The only one who can conceive ideas is the spirit, the male part of this union between the spirit and the soul. And so it is for this reason that there is no way every idea your soul has conceived in while she was asleep is true. But the only reason you believe it is true is because your soul is still sleeping. But when you wake up, you realize the law that governs the human, that governs the mind. And so because your soul is sleeping, she has the womb. She has conceived all these things in this consciousness. The soul goes to bed, but she's unable to sleep. Why? Because she is worried about what she's seeing, what is going on in her. She's worried about what is going on in her, what is going on in her environment. The soul goes to bed and is unable to sleep. She has thoughts of fear all over her. She's afraid of getting sick. And so if she goes, she's not even sick. Most often she's not sick. But the fear of getting sick takes her into a mood of sadness, fear. There is a soul who is afraid of being late from work. He has depended on the strength of this personality to say that, to the extent that he gets to a point where he has a good job, he has a good life, and seeing all the good things that is happening to him. And then they look at the environment, what a thought from nowhere. Nothing like something there to justify that this person is going to be laid off from job. But just a thought from a random thought from nowhere. And of course, now I know that the thought is coming from this invisible, this personality you have assumed yourself to be. As the evil monster in every mind, the one who produces negative thought is the personality you have believed yourself to be. Yet it producing it so subtle. And yet we nurture and dress up this personality and kind of make sure this personality is okay, not knowing that this same personality is the root cause of all your negative thoughts. So out of nowhere, happy, having fun, enjoying his job, the personality bring up these thoughts that what if you lose your job? What if they lay you off? And this one starts getting anxious and worried that he will lose his job. For others, their soul is afraid of dying. They live every day dreading the fear of dying. Not that something has justified them to be that way, but again, a random thought from nowhere comes in and it puts you in that panicking mood. And you can't breathe. You are limited, you can't do so many things because what if you do this and this will happen? It hasn't happened yet. We live in that fear, that darkness. You hear cases of someone going to get a job, getting nervous even before a meeting, even before an interview. The person hasn't gone for that interview. 2-3 days, even 1 week before the interview, they get a complete full-blown panic attack. Those are the experiences that trigger, that makes the soul of man to hurt. And it is in this pain, in this suffering, in this hurting, that the soul is searching for answers. The soul of man is seeking for ways to switch off this negative thought, to take a break from all the mental torture. To get rid of all the negative voices and calm herself. But in all her effort, she has not succeeded in doing that. And this all happened. The result of all this explains why we are all collectively having the same experiences. Whether you are black or white, Caucasian or whatever, young or old, we are all having these same experiences. Why? Because our soul fell asleep. In that sleep, the result of that sleep introduced her to a state of mind which led her to the creation and introduction of a whole new first law of consciousness. A first law of consciousness and system of operation which introduce what appears to be illness, sickness, diseases, emotional pain. The soul now. I want to use this to kind of explain. Remember, I did say your body is a temple of God. Because of all the things that the soul is going inside, imagine this to be the body. This body now expresses all the negativity, the darkness, the sleepless nights, the suffering, the mental struggle is now being expressed through this form, because the body mirrors everything that is within. It mirrors it. Everything that is going on inside your mind is now being expressed through your body. For some, it expresses as illness, diseases, emotional pain, depression. Your body now have to experience and go through all these things. Why? Because the soul's invitation of darkness in the heart and mind of people. So, the invitation of the soul, the invitation of darkness in the heart and minds of people is what the soul is what the soul is experiencing on a day-to-day basis as misery. And I could give you examples upon examples of the miseries of so many souls out there who are hurting, who are going through this misery on a day-to-day basis, and they want an end. And the only way they can put an end into this misery, into this hurt, in this suffering, is for every soul to wake up from their sleep. Let me give you some examples. For example, the soul of one who is dealing with trauma. This is someone who is just struggling to have a good life, who just wants to be happy and does everything within his or her power to be happy. She goes to great lengths to cover her pain while also dealing with social anxiety. This soul is looking for ways to manage herself. She's looking for ways to manage her pains and end her suffering, while at the same time, she's struggling to deal with what other people are thinking about her multiple panic attacks, about her shame of having panic attack in the public. You see other souls. Another soul is left with back pain, with anxiety, with post-traumatic stress disorder. And they go trying to do everything, medication, so many things, yet to no avail.